When you buy a car for $1,300, you should expect to be taking out someone's trash. And that's exactly what I thought I'd be doing when I won the bid on this twin-turbo V8-powered BMW for just $1,300. And this isn't the first time I've done this, not even close. I bought almost the same exact car before that was also very cheap at around $3,000. But its engine was locked up and it was only good for parts. 3, 2, 1. I'm gonna hold the start button this time. Foot on the brake. Might be locked up. So naturally I figured we would be having a rehash of the same situation. A nice parts car and nothing more. But to my surprise, when we went to pick the car up, it cranked and it even sounded healthy. Well, it's not starting, but it sounds so darn good. Very quickly after we got it home, we found a broken ignition coil wire, and after repairing it and replacing the fuse that powers this bank of the ignition system, the car fired right up, but not without a little smoke. Okay, it was a lot of smoke. Was it clear? Even though it cost us next to nothing to get this thing up and running, that smoking issue is a big one. It's so big that BMW faced a class action lawsuit over it. This engine, known as the N63, is also known as one of the least reliable modern engines from any automaker, and BMW didn't even bother fixing these things. They revised the engine totally and then just ended up replacing them for their customers. And a lot of owners got this updated engine for free, or at least at an extremely discounted rate based on the mileage their cars had. BMW in good faith even slashed the price of these new V8 long blocks to around $3,000, which is like 90% off of what they would normally cost. But the labor involved in even just swapping the motor, and especially trying to attempt a fix on the originals, generally outweighs what these cars are even worth on paper, no matter what shape they're in, which makes every single BMW with an original N63 motor like the one we have here mechanically totaled. It's why so many of them just end up in junkyards and worth only the value of their parts. But today, we're going to see if we can fix this BMW on an ultra budget with all DIY methods. We need to try and get rid of the nasty oil leakage that's making its way into the ignition system so we can stop our misfires, and if we're lucky, we're going to try to reduce or even eliminate the constant smoke so that we can daily drive this sub $2,000 luxury twin turbo cruiser. I'd say we got about a 50-50 shot at actually fixing this thing and keeping it within budget, but even if we do, we can't forget we got a twin turbo V8 under the hood, which means increased maintenance and heightened insurance premiums. So I'm definitely worried about those motor mounts. I'm not so worried about the insurance costs, since SoFi has an amazing insurance marketplace that makes it easy for you to compare multiple carrier quotes all in one spot. All you got to do is visit SoFi.com/Samcrac or hit the link in the description box. And when you do, they'll ask you a few questions like what sort of car you drive and what sort of coverages you're looking for. And in just a few minutes, you'll be provided with multiple carrier quotes all in one spot. You know, earlier in the year, I got my insurance renewal and it seemed a bit high. So I checked out SoFi's marketplace and I was able to find a policy that had more coverage for less money. And it turns out that I wasn't the only one overpaying. On average, people who switch save $1,007 a year. It only takes a few minutes of your time, and I think it's well worth it to check out SoFi.com/Samcrac and get these quotes. It's totally free to do so. You can even scan the QR code up here if it's easier for you, or just hit that link in the description box and check out SoFi.com/Samcrac. So far, we've spent really next to nothing to just get the car up and running, but now we have to be really careful. Just a few parts for these V8 engines can well exceed what we've spent on the entire car, and honestly, we've probably already spent that in our time just to get the valve covers off. This was a massive job. It's one that bills 13 labor hours at the dealer, but with the car now like this, we're able to tackle pretty much all of our major concerns. The first being these extremely worn out gaskets. These weren't just causing oil leaks everywhere, they were allowing oil to get into the spark plug tubes, which was causing our misfires on a few cylinders. Also, under the valve covers are these oil separators, which could be one of the primary reasons we're burning so much oil, and we're going to take a deep dive into these a bit later. Now, the bottom side of the engine is also covered up in gummy oil, so I pulled the lower pan. Under here is the oil pump chain, which might seem a bit loose, but from every other video I've seen, these are all like this. As long as there's not a ton of movement up and down where it looks like the chain could slip, this left to right slack should be pretty normal. While the engine's apart and all the plugs are out, I'm just gonna drop a little bit of cleaner into each cylinder for two reasons. The first is because we saw some oil puddles drop in from those injector and spark plug tubes, but also when a car's ingesting a lot of oil, like we know this one was, what can happen is it can build up carbon in the cylinders and really sticky up your piston rings. It will cause the car to run kind of crummy. So this cleaner should loosen those up. Before we start reassembling everything, since the engine's still apart, there's one quick thing I want to do. Inside this jar right here, I've got a little bit of seal conditioner, which is better known as stop leak. It's the same stop leak that basically all the other automotive guys swear by. The problem is with this product, it's very thin. It's almost like water. So what I want to do here is I'm just going to mix a little bit of oil in it, and then we'll pull it up in a syringe and shoot some over every single valve spring. The reason being is that the Achilles heel of this engine, the thing that causes all that smoke out of the tailpipe, in most cases, are the valve stem seals. We can't see them because they live under the springs here, and well, you can actually replace them. Without removing the engine from the car, the seals themselves, they're not too expensive. What is the time and the risk involved to actually swap them out. This is a job that bills nearly an entire week worth of labor at the dealership at around $10,000. It's a job that the dealers won't even do because, like I said, there's a lot of risk involved. And just the toolkit to install these new seals costs more than we spent on the entire car. The cool thing is with this specific product, I've seen some posts and also some product reviews that specifically state people have had success with their valve stem seals softening and sealing again and stopping the smoke in their N63 powered BMWs. So it'll be really interesting to see if this does have any effect, especially since it only costs like 20 bucks. But it is something that also doesn't just work overnight. It's going to take a few driving cycles and probably a few hundred miles to actually see if it makes any sort of difference. So for right now, we're not going to know the effects, but I will be posting a complete update video, and actually I've done some preliminary tests with this product directly on some of the other dried out seals we pulled out of this engine, and I'll be releasing that video very soon. So make sure you're following along and subscribe so that you're the first to find out when it drops. While our engine stew is simmering and we're awaiting a parts delivery, there's a couple other things we really need to get this car to 100%. When we first picked it up, we noticed that it was missing its air boxes and also a large heat shield that covers the turbos. And I noticed that at one of the local pick-apart yards, they just inventoried a 7 Series with the same exact engine that we have in our car. I figured this would be the perfect opportunity to get our missing parts in the cheapest way possible. And even though we arrived around 3 days after this car showed up online, it had already been pillaged. It looked like someone was mad at it or something. Besides the front end completely missing, they ripped random parts out of the engine bay and threw them halfway across the yard. Now, it's kind of to be expected on a car like this since the parts can be so pricey from these salvage resellers and, of course, the dealership. You gotta think, dealerships and salvage resellers, they have licenses to be in these businesses, but anybody can walk into a pick-apart yard. So really, there's no barrier to entry to start a business by just going to these yards, finding what's still desirable and what's still left on these pick-apart cars. They grab these parts and then they just resell them online. Anyway, everything we came for was gone out of the engine bay. But if we take a few steps back, you'll notice that they did leave the air boxes for us. One of them was conveniently sitting underneath the car that was staged next to it. And actually, they did leave the heat shield, but that thing was completely destroyed. That was not a big deal because I found one online and I got it for 20 bucks shipped. Now, I always enjoy visiting these yards. It's always fun to check out what other sort of stuff they've got and see what other parts you might need. But by the time you actually grab some of this stuff, especially on a part like these air boxes, which have several components to them, like their rubber boots or their filters and mass airflow sensors, you'll find out really quick that you're usually better off just going and finding them online or at a local salvage dismantler's yard. Well, you'll pay the same or less, and well, they'll deliver them right to your door. Either way, we got out pretty cheap. It was 40 bucks for both of the air boxes. That did not include the mass airflow sensors, which we didn't get, and I'll show you why a bit later. We're finally at the part where everything can go back together, and we're starting with the oil separator. And I've been puzzled by this piece since we took the car apart. This lives underneath the valve cover. Its job is to just separate oil from crankcase vapors before it travels through the PCV pipes on top of your engine. And well, BMW actually sells a pair of these as part of a valve cover refresh kit. And I was just wondering, are they doing parts bundling, trying to get you to spend a couple $100 more when you do a valve cover job? So I reached out to a bunch of BMW guys, and these are techs that work on these cars every single day, and I asked, why should you replace these? And every single person told me, you just do it while you're in there. Nobody could tell me how they failed. So we went to the extent of actually cutting one of these open. You know, I figured that if it got all sludged up, it couldn't allow the vapors to travel through efficiently, and well, that could create a problem in your PCV system like we think we have. And well, we found absolutely nothing on the inside. So even though I like to do everything on a super budget, I went ahead and I did order a replacement set. So now I can tell you how I actually think these do fail. The brand new one, if you listen to it, you hear that? You hear that rattling around in there? That's a one-way valve that's located in the bottom portion of it here. And if I shake the old one, it's silent because those valves are stuck. They're gummed up at this point. And this would definitely cause the car to consume oil like we've got. Given its name as an oil separator, and its job is to do just that, separate the oil. Here's how I think this was causing a problem before. If you look at the corner of the valve cover here, this is where all of the crankcase vapors are going to enter. There's going to be some oil in there, and it's going to run through the box here, which has different chambers in it. Those chambers' job are to separate that oil. Now, these little legs on the bottom here, these are our drains. And those one-way valves are supposed to let the oil out, but keep the gases in, right? Which then travel up and through the top. So if that one-way valve is stuck in here and it's not allowing the oil to drain out, well, it's going to go right through our PCV system into the intakes, and the engine's going to burn it. These are going to operate similar to like the PCV valves that sit on top of the engine. They should let air pass through one way and not the other. So if I blow into it, it's not letting any air out, but whenever I suck on it, you can hear it works just fine. Now this old one, it's all full of oil and grime. I really don't want to do it, but for science, okay, it doesn't let oil. Oh, this is disgusting. Ugh, do I have to do this? You can feel it. It's gummy. It's not letting as nearly as much air out. It is allowing a little bit, but yeah, it's tough. These are failed, these are old, and these are bad. So from here, we're just gonna bolt the new oil separators under each valve cover, then lay our fresh gaskets in place. And really, this is the first real money we're putting into the car, and it wasn't all that bad considering I got it from a dealer. This kit cost $200 for all OEM parts and new hardware. Of course, we could have bought aftermarket and saved a few bucks, but since this has got to be one of the most difficult valve cover jobs in the world, I didn't think it was worth it to try and save a little bit here. Right now is also a great time to vacuum out all the cleaner we put in all the cylinders, just so we don't forget about it later and we can just put everything back together. All in all, even though this might seem complex, and it is a bit difficult, I do think it still is a DIY job. There's just a lot of DIYing since there are just so many darn parts. Reassembling this took another solid day, and the hardest part about it was just routing all of the wires. There's a ton of them, and if something isn't exactly in the right place, you'll notice other things just don't fit, and so there's a lot of shuffling to make sure it's all right. Now, when we originally took this car apart, I noticed that the PCV hoses on the top looked fresh and new, but they had no part number or stamps, which likely means they're a cheap aftermarket set. And while they did pass the balloon test, a lot of people seem to have issues with these. So just to make sure we have the best chance at success, I picked up an OE replacement set that cost me $100. Of course, we're on one of the last flipping steps, and this oil filter housing has been cranked on so tight that the tool that is specifically for it is just slipping on it. I did see it was worn a little bit. Now I'm just gonna kind of give it one nice, I think it went, I think it did. Hold on, let's see here. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I've got some rough sandpaper I'm gonna line the oil filter tool with. Oh, yes. It did it. Yes. All right, so sandpaper is the trick, but also we got to buy a new housing, which God knows if any of the local auto parts stores sell that. All right, here we go. Our old oil filter tool stuck on the oil filter cap. We've wasted too much time here, so let's just try and destroy it. All right, we're making some progress here. Come on, you son of a... All right, the only thing keeping us from starting the car was the replacement one of these, which none of the local stores had. It's the next day now. We were able to get one delivered, and it was 30 bucks. This is why they make it pour so slow. It's like part of the experience with the green motor oil. This stuff is supposed to last in BMWs up to 20,000 miles. Oh, look, fine print, except for on the N63 motor. Make sure you change out every 1,500 or as needing replenish because it's burning oil. How does it know? All right, all 10 quarts are in. How much do you think at the dealership they charge for 10 quarts? Because if you ever look at those oil change coupons, they usually say up to 5 quarts, additional quarts more. So $79 oil change turns into $179 oil change, something like that. So I'm just checking for fuel. I'm checking for fuel. We got a little bit of, our typical pump out the back. No fuel smell. That's all good. We're still smoking a little bit, but that's okay. Starting to clear up. Not really. Give it a little rev. Just a little. This is so weird. It's smoking worse out of one pipe, and there's nothing coming out of this side. It's amazing. There's only one last part to hook up in the engine bay. That's our air boxes that we picked up earlier. Now the insides were a bit mushy and gross, and well, they had gotten wet from just sitting outside in the pick-apart yard. So we got 2 new filters to replace them. I bought the third-party cheapo ones for 30 bucks a pair. Now these things, the OEM parts, are ridiculously expensive because they have this plastic sort of trim around them. When it comes to the MAFs, when we looked up the price on these at the pick-apart yard, they were like 60 or more a piece. And so for used mass airflow sensors, I told them to keep them, and it's a good thing we did, because it turns out that these BMWs had 2 different styles. The one at the yard were the wrong ones. I was able to go online and find the ones that fit our car, $20 each. This is a used part, but for around $100 for the whole kit, the boxes, the MAFs, and the filters will be sorted here. Hopefully our engine will finally boost again. This initial smoke is very normal because we had that cleaner in the cylinders. It's the same thing you would see after running like a seafoam treatment. But after a few minutes, things seemed a whole lot more like they did before, but it is still a bit too early to tell. Right now, I think it's best that we just drive the car and see how everything progresses. Less smoke. Currently, there's a lot less than there was. With every shot up and down the road, the car ran great. The power feels there. It's pretty quick, and even though it was still smoking, it seemed like it was getting better every several minutes. Now the check engine light is still on simply because I haven't cleared the codes yet, but I can tell you that we did pull up a misfire gauge and all of our numbers are even, and the engine seems to be running spot on. In between driving, I just let this car idle, and it sat for quite a while before we shut it off for the night. But upon the next morning, after starting it up again and letting it get warm, here's what we got. It's idling beautifully. And check these tailpipes out. Nothing.
What an amazing success. At first, I didn't think this car was worth the time we put into it, but curiosity kept us going, and here we are with a car that once cost someone 80 grand for less than $2,000. It's in great shape. It looks good, it's fast, it makes amazing noises. In this moment, I couldn't have felt any happier. But like with most BMWs with this engine, my feelings didn't last very long.